Chapter 81. Scratching Eugene Henry's ears, Ryan mentally rehearsed his villain speech. He had put on the war hat, and prepared for battle. Since Frank and the improved Mosquito were too big for the presidential van, the group instead switched to a light black truck and put the heavy hitters in the back. T drove with a bandit's hood covering her face, which made the android look like a hostage-taker. Saren sat at the front, while Ryan kept the second row of seats for himself. "Ah," the doll said while she looked at the road. "I feel nostalgic. It reminds me of the times we went out on picnics outside the farm. Except with more mayhem," Ryan added, his cat meowing on his lap. "And property damage." "This better be worth it," Saren said while typing on a tablet. "Even with the bunker under our control, we're taking on Dynamis." "The governor, no, we're putting big business back in its place," Ryan replied. "If my plan works, and it will work, Dynamis will be too busy tearing itself apart to target us. Besides, Hector's ultimatum ends today. Either we leave, or he does." Yeah, I get it." His second-in-command marked a short pause, as she looked at the road. "Ryan, that bloody thing on the video. It's inside all of us. Inside everyone who took a knockoff elixir. Which according to his calculations, covered around 10% of New Rome's population. Knockoffs cost a lot, but not as much as a house, and both Dynamis and Augustus made extensive use of the substance to bolster their forces. 1 in every 10 people they crossed on the street could become a bloodstream clone at any moment. So almost all the gang," Saren said. "Whoever thought it was a good idea deserves to get shot." "Tobacco companies kill half their clients," Ryan replied. Knowing Darth Manada, he probably thought the profit margin was worth the risk. "They can't get away with it," T argued. "That's monstrous." "Agreed." Saren nodded sharply. "And besides, they refused to pay us after all the risks we took fighting Augustus. Sweet revenge it is." "Saren, darling, are the videos ready?" Ryan asked. "Yes, but Dynamis will probably take them down within minutes. They control the dynanet and the airwaves." "Most, but not all of them," Ryan said, as the truck stopped to pick up the crew's last member. She opened the door to the carrier's left, and climbed inside the car. For her first villain outing, Livia had settled on something simple, yet elegant, a black lounge suit with a red shirt and necktie underneath, alongside a Daft Punk-inspired helmet with the same color scheme. The outfit, while unable to hide her feminine curves, gave her a stylish androgynous look. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan introduced his new sidekick. "I present to you the one and only First Lady of our presidential regime, Queen Crimson." "Greetings," Livia shyly introduced herself to the group. I'm honored to meet you all." "Welcome, I'm the doll." T introduced herself warmly, while Saren let out a grunt. "We're going to have a fun time, you'll see." The gynoid sounded disturbingly eager to participate in a criminal enterprise. "Mr. President." Ryan turned his head, Frank glancing through the window separating the light truck seats from its cargo. "Are you a Mormon?" "No, though I will probably have to call myself a god at one point." He couldn't finish a villain run without one megalomaniacal speech or two. "Why such a question, Agent Frank?" "You have the new and old First Ladies in the same car," the giant explained. "Unless one of them is an intern?" "I have only one wife, Agent Frank," Ryan said, looking into the giant's eyes. "And her name is America." Well, the courier once had a rock star phase with all the debauchery it implied. By the loop's end, he hit so many groupies, he didn't remember half of them and could no longer walk straight. However, mindless sex's novelty had quickly worn out. Ryan preferred an exclusive, intimate relationship with one person. Something with a deeper connection than superficial lust. He was looking for a soulmate. "The underdiver won't be joining us?" Livia asked, a bit curious. Ryan's mood instantly worsened. "No, she won't." After the disastrous knockoff test, Shorty had locked herself in her room and refused to leave it. She didn't let anyone inside, not even Ryan or Sarah. While the genius had loved her father, in the end, that relationship was an open wound that never healed. All the progress she had made in the last loop seemed to have been washed away by the fear and the pain. And Ryan could only help her if she let him in. I'm sorry, Olivia said, upon sensing his unease. I didn't mean. Queen, I love your costume. T said at the front, trying to guide the conversation towards less awkward grounds. Especially the French techno style. Oh, thank you. Olivia joined her gloved hands together, and though Ryan couldn't see her face beneath the helmet, he would have bet his hand that she looked embarrassed. Do you like it too? Quick save. I can't miss anyone wearing a Dior suit, Ryan reassured Olivia, Eugene Henry moving from his lap to the Auguste princess. See, even my cat approves. He only accepts the best. Is it wise to bring him? Olivia asked, petting the feline while the truck moved towards Dynamis Star Studios. I know cats have 9 lives, but he will be in the middle of a war zone. I guarantee you that everything will happen as I have foreseen, Ryan said ominously, before giving her the Fisty Brothers to wear. Put them on, please. Gauntlets? Olivia asked. What do? They turn people into donuts, the courier replied before checking the time. According to our schedule, we have roughly 1 hour before wardrobe and the others check in to do their cameos. We'll arrive right in time for the morning news. Soon, the truck reached the confines of Dynamis Star Studios. The park already buzzed with activity, an army of technicians and interns moving towards the cafeteria for their morning coffee shot. 2 guards lazily controlled cars trying to get past the security checkpoint, none of them wearing power armor. As Ryan learned from his previous visits, Dynamis didn't expect anyone to attack the place. Everyone put on their seat belts. T asked, her hands tensing on the driving wheel as they approached the checkpoint. Ryan, subtle or loud? Loud. Was that even a question? The doll smashed the accelerator, and the truck rushed at the checkpoint like a bull at a matador. The guards jumped off the side of the road to dodge, as the Metagang's vehicle smashed through the security barrier. The vehicle continued its course through the parking lot at full speed, before abruptly stopping in front of a warehouse. Technicians watched, astonished, as the supervillain crew exited the car. Ryan carried a Jean Henry in his hands. Olivia struggled to put Fisty over her gloves. The doll opened the truck's container to free its passengers, and Sarin unleashed a mighty shockwave to the skies. This time, the studio's staff finally understood the danger and fled in panic. Finally out, Mosquito said as he exited the truck's container alongside Frank. Having overfed on high-nutrient blood, the bugman had almost doubled in size. The crimson flesh beneath his exoskeleton had turned green, his muscles swelling until they became almost grotesque. Ryan thought he should change his name to Beefcake. That's the last time I share a ride with you, Frank. Mosquito, dear, you protect the car, survey the area, and raise the alarm if someone tries to fly in, Ryan said. The doll grabbed a rocket launcher hidden beneath the seats and locked the truck. Time to dazzle New Rome. Sarin blew up the warehouse's entrance with a shock wave, while Beefcake took flight and ran circles above the studio. Ryan walked into the hall first, like a boss, while his minions followed in regimented order. The group entered a reception hall, ignoring the terrified secretaries, interns, and workers too afraid to stop their advance. Most of the security guards weren't paid enough to fight a band of genomes, but one dared to threaten Ryan with a gun. The courier froze time and disarmed him with one hand, using the other to carry his cat. Ryan eventually reached a door protected by a keycard lock, reading the words News Studio written on it. Agent Frank. The president asked his trusty bodyguard. Open the door. The Iron Giant immediately looked around, and quickly noticed a terrified technician with a keycard around his neck. Ryan quickly identified him as Kevin, one of the scriptwriters working on the Panda movie in the previous loop. The man had frozen in place, holding a steaming coffee cup in his hand. Frank lifted the scriptwriter by the pants, spilling the coffee all over the floor, and dangled him in front of the lock like a toy. The door opened upon registering the keycard. After you, Mr. President, the giant said, as he dropped his victim onto the floor. From the brown spot on his pants, the scriptwriter had soiled himself. Thank you, Ryan said while moving through the open door, only for Frank to walk through the walls around it as he followed. To each their own entrance. New Rome's news set was a wide circular room the size of an apartment, with half the walls covered by a large 3D screen. A well-lit anchor news desk faced 2 cameras, and a horde of low-wage slaves kept in eternal darkness. A handsome, brown-haired anchorman sat on a leather chair, having been ready to deliver the morning news when the metagang invaded the set. "Everyone, hands behind your heads!" Saren snarled angrily, as T threatened the staff with her rocket launcher. The fearful screams didn't last long, replaced with cowering silence as Frank and the doll herded half a dozen technicians into a corner. The cameramen continued their work under Saren's surveillance. "I swear everything will be all right, if you don't resist," the doll promised the hostages, even as she threatened them with a rocket launcher. "We don't want to hurt anyone. They're our hostages, don't cuddle them," Saren said, as she hooked her tablet to a recording device. Livia stood in the background, too anxious to say anything. The Auguste princess didn't have much experience with field work. Ryan calmly approached the anchorman, and silently threatened his vital space. The man rose from his seat without a word and joined the other hostages, leaving the courier free to take over the chair. Eugene Henry meowed on his lap, looking at the cameras like a furred diva. "Do I look intimidating enough?" Ryan asked Livia, as he adjusted his suit. "If you could raise your hat a little, that would be perfect." Ryan followed her advice and basked in the spotlight. "We're live, boss," Saren said, forcing a cameraman to focus on Ryan's mask. The president silently glanced at the various technicians, noticing a young teen with brown hair and acne. "You're an intern?" he asked her. Yes sir." "Bring me coffee. With milk and sugar." The young teen immediately fled out of the room to fulfill his order, though Ryan wasn't sure she would return. In any case, the courier scratched his cat's ears, and introduced himself to the camera. "Good morning, America. While it's saddening you won't hear the weather report, spoiler warning, go to the beach today, oh boy, will you get something better. I am Mr. President, and this is my message. He was born for this. I am Ryan Romano, leader of the free world, conqueror of Monaco, and democratically elected chairman of the Meta Gang. Yes, the same psycho band that took over that dump of a northern district. We are currently taking Star Studios hostage until our demands are fulfilled. Don't try to take us off the airwaves, because if anyone tries..." Ryan put his mini-a-bomb on the news desk. "I call it the North Korea Special," he explained in simple terms. "Using highly sophisticated genius technology too complicated for you to understand, this device can induce a thermonuclear detonation that will burn the whole city to ashes. If I were you, I would pack your stuff and leave for Milan." Ryan could hardly see the hostages' faces with all the lights aimed at him, but he heard some of them gasping in shock. Yeah, who would be desperate enough to go to Milan? The intern returned with the coffee, and put it at the desk's edge, as far away from Ryan as possible. "Thank you, slave," the president said. "You shall be spared." "Can I go now?" the intern asked, sweating profusely. "You can go to the photocopier." Ryan crushed her hopes of a better life, before focusing back on the camera. He noticed Livia pushing the intern towards the other hostages, but didn't pay much attention. "Now, perhaps you're wondering why this is happening, so we compiled a short movie." The screen behind his desk broadcast his recorded talk with Hector Manada. Well, of course, the courier had edited the film to make it fit within a 5 minutes length, but such were the rules of sensational journalism. He would probably release a director's cut one day. "No more knockoffs," Hector Manada's voice echoed behind Ryan. "My agreement was with your predecessors, and their demise changes everything. Certainly we can continue where they left off. Your people didn't deliver, so why should I honor my side of the bargain? Then I should reveal what's inside your knockoffs. I'm sure your people will love buying a psycho in a can. Do you have any proof?" The video switched to the disastrous elixir test, of Bloodstream's horrifying essence turning the overpriced drink into a screaming slime. Livia let out a gasp of horror at the sight, while the hostages started to whisper between themselves. "They are taking down the video almost as soon as I put it on a website," Sharon said while typing on her tablet, "but it still makes thousands of views each time I upload it." The president nodded, knowing once something was on the net, it would remain there forever. "I will personally perform the kids' show version, and since I do not believe in G." Ryan put 3 plasticine figurines on the desk, representing Hector Manada, Augustus, and Big Fat Adam. "Say hello to stop motion." An awkward silence followed. Tough crowd. Ryan, who had a long experience with this kind of performance, did the voiceover. "Hey, I'm Mob Zeus." He raised the Augustus figurine, while doing his best impersonation of the tyrant. "And I'm evil." Livia chuckled, and Eugene Henry left Ryan's lap to land on the desk. The cat started playing with the bomb like a ball of yarn, to everyone's horror, and Ryan briefly interrupted his performance to glance at his pet. "Good kitty," he said, scratching Eugene Henry's back and feeding on the audience's tears of despair. "You like my bomb, huh? You like it, do you?" His cat meowed in response, and Ryan returned to his show. "I am Hector, and I am so jealous of Augustus. He shines too much." The courier played Manada's figurine, before moving Adam's. Each time, he imitated the original's voice. "I am Adam. I am so fat, that last time I used a weighing machine, it let out death throes. I want to help, but I am poor. Take my money, friendly whale. I beg of you." Hector answered. Nobody laughed at the spectacle, all eyes focusing on Eugene Henry instead. By now the cat was rolling the bomb near the entrance coffee cup, showing his royal behind to the camera. Ryan put a 4th figurine on the desk, representing Sispy. He carried an oversized knife of clay in his tentacle. "I am Sishak," the president voiced the Brainjacker's figurine, before moving it behind Adams, "and I am a traitor. Mr. President, turn around." Frank panicked, as he relived his previous charges of murder. "Turn around." The Sishak figurine stabbed Adams in the back, the madman collapsing. The whole building trembled, as Frank punched the ground in grief. "And that's where I come in, the hand of injustice." Ryan smashed the Sishak figurine, turning it to paste. Then he raised his plasticine-covered fist. "I have been disrespected, humiliated, unpaid, but never broken. They called me mad, but I will show them. I will show them all. I am taking all of New Rome hostage, until Dynamis pays me the ransom I deserve. The outrageous sum of one, he's gonna say it." The doll gasped. "One." Ryan winked at the camera, and his countless fans behind it. $1 million. The tense silence was broken by Livia's giggling and the doll's sobs of happiness. "He dared," the android said. "He dared." "Morons dare at all, that's how you recognize them," Sharon replied. "Boss, you do know American dollars cost almost as much as collection stamps nowadays. You wanted them to pay us in pesos, perhaps?" Ryan deadpanned. "You would need all of Mexico to pay $1 million, Frank said, spitting on America's oldest enemy. "In any case, the cavalry is coming to the rescue," Sharon said, showing Ryan her tablet's screen. Someone was live-streaming Wyvern flying through New Rome's skies in human form, aiming straight for Star Studios. "They can't silence the truth." The president went on a rant before the camera. "We shall not give up in the face of enemy, bleep." Ryan glanced at Eugene Henry, the cat having pushed the bomb's big button and triggered the countdown. "Well." The president looked back at the camera, and smiled behind his mask. "That's all, folks. Chapter 82. It was said that the show must go on, no matter what. And so, little Garinik attempted to catch the wild princess. Ryan continued his play, having a 3-headed dragon plasticine figurine pursue that of a pink princess. After running out of video material to humiliate Dynamis with, the courier had started to improvise. But she ran too fast for his tiny legs, and poor Garinik had forgotten he could fly. Nobody paid attention to his Shakespearean play, except Frank, whom the groundbreaking plot captivated. Everyone else instead focused on the inactive nuclear device on the news desk. "You should have taken a dog, boss," Sharon said, glaring at Agent Henry. The cat knew he had sinned, so he tried to look cute to avoid punishment. Unfortunately for him, Hazmat Girl didn't have any heart to soften. I understand why the Chinese ate them. Come on, I disarmed the countdown, Ryan said, though he had to freeze time for it. He abandoned his play to scratch his cat's ears and reassure him. You're sorry you scared them, huh? You didn't want to kill them all, it was an accident. T cleared her throat. It was just a vocal effect, since as an android she didn't need to breathe. Ryan, Mr. President, Ryan corrected her. You're my friend, doll, but we're on TV right now. Mr. President, while I love animals, I believe you are spoiling your cat rotten. Good, his master replied with a deep dark voice, before noticing Olivia nervously approaching him. Yes? His new sidekick began to whisper in his ear. I'm seeing Wyvern attacking Mosquito, and an Illinois Meteor team besieging the building alongside the private security. Is the panda among them? Ryan asked, suddenly worried. Who? Olivia asked, apparently never having taken notes on the mighty man-bear. The panda, the chosen one, Ryan explained, loud enough for the hostage and TV viewers to hear. The only genome whose power trumps mine. Our long-awaited duel has been foretold by precogs. Olivia giggled behind her helmet. No, I don't think so, she whispered, only to turn serious. But Felix is among them, and a few of my alternate selves die from glass shards to the neck. So the carnival did intend to target them this time around. The courier learned enough about Dynamis to predict their movements, but he couldn't say the same for Hargraves. Did the carnival ally with the Manada brothers like in the previous timeline? Or did they remain free agents for now? We'll make sure nothing happens to Felix, Ryan whispered back too low for others to listen, before hamming it up. With our combined power, Queen Crimson, we will rule all of New Rome. Start ruling your stupid cat and then we'll see about the city, Saren said, unimpressed. In any case, we're returning home. What about the hostages? T asked, almost hopeful. Do we take them with us? Ryan shrugged his shoulders. I realized it was a bit redundant to keep a dozen people hostage, when we have a nuclear device to threaten the city with. And I do not think we have enough space in the truck, Olivia pointed out the obvious. Oh, the doll said, lowering her weapon and allowing the hostages to breathe. I was starting to like them. T had known them for half an hour, and she already developed Lima syndrome. She was too soft for the job. The group exited the Star Studios warehouse 1 minute afterward, with Saren carrying the bomb and Frank the plasticine figurines. Ryan walked at the front, holding Agent Henry in his arms like a diabolical mastermind on a stroll. No sooner did they pass the warehouse's doors than a shockwave almost caused them to trip up. The courier raised his eyes, and watched Mosquito wrestling with a fully transformed wyvern up in the skies. The courier remembered that they fought in an early loop, with the dragon lady squashing the psycho like a bug. But now that Mosquito had overfed, he more than held his own. The flying beefcake punched wyvern so hard that it caused windows in the vicinity to crack. The blow sent the dragon tumbling backward, but she quickly corrected her descent. She retaliated with her breath, Mosquito fleeing out of the path at astonishing speed. While the two titans ducked it out in the skies, the group prepared to return to their truck, only to find it surrounded by a dozen private security members in black riot gear. Multiple laser rifles pointed at Ryan and his men, while one wise soldier targeted the president's crotch. None of them opened fire though. As Livia warned, they also had a few genomes with them. Adam Kitty, who didn't carry throwable weapons yet. Reload, that cheap knockoff, who at least had the decency of bringing a lightsaber. And Ryan's favorite hero in the world. Hi, Wardrobe. The courier warmly greeted his future rival. We finally meet in the flesh. Hi, nice to meet you too, quick save. Wardrobe waved a hand at the group. This time she cosplayed as an FBI hostage negotiator, with a megaphone in hand. I loved your stop-motion play. Wardrobe, please don't encourage that madman, Adam Kitten said, hands raised. He looked like a cat ready to pounce on mice and eager to finally stretch his legs. Livia tensed at the sight of her ex-boyfriend, but wisely remained silent. Sorry. Wardrobe apologized before raising her megaphone. Please surrender, you're surrounded. And you outgunned. Saren replied while raising the A-bomb, wyvern and mosquitoes duel causing more shockwaves. Back off. A few private security members raised their rifles at Miss Gashole, but none dared to pull the trigger. I'm Mr. President now, Ryan said, scratching his cat behind the ears. Frank stood proudly behind his master, while the doll pointed her rocket launcher at Reload. You should know, of all people. After all, Wardrobe. You created me. I created you? She asked with a frown, before studying his costume in depth. Her face paled, upon recognizing the ensemble's perfect harmony of colors. The authority of the necktie, the softness of the gloves, the savagery of the bowler hat. It was you. It was you who asked for the costume. Wardrobe, you know this guy? Asked Reload, his hands tightening around his weapon. I designed his costume. Wardrobe paled in horror at the terrible truth. But I didn't know someone would use it for evil. It has skulls on the socks. Felix snarled, pointing a finger at Ryan's boots. What did you expect? That's right, Wardrobe, Ryan said, his voice as deep as the darkest abyss. By creating this cashmere suit, you sowed the seeds of your own nemesis. A grim darkness born of your shining light. My nemesis? Emotion broke through Wardrobe's face, as her wish for a flashy supervillain archenemy was granted. I have a secret nemesis? Yes, you do. Ryan extended one hand at her, holding a Jean Henry with the other. Join me, Wardrobe. Become my archenemy, every day of the week. Together, nothing can stop our brand. We will build a multi-billion-euro franchise, greater than even Star Wars. We will flood the market with merchandise, and we will rule the box office. Only through me can you achieve the popularity you crave. Yes. Oh, Mr. President, I accept your offer. Wardrobe surrendered to the lure of a long-term exclusive rivalry. We'll be fighting forever. Good. How about we schedule our first fight tomorrow? Would tomorrow be all right? Ryan took a few steps forward, not waiting for an answer. I have a very busy agenda. Doomsday weapons won't build themselves. Reload moved in the president's path, weapon raised. You're not going anywhere, you maniac. Is it me, or do you really think you can actually stop us? Ryan channeled his inner villain, while Saren dangled the A-bomb threateningly. Don't force me to assert my authority. Be wary, Reload, he can stop time for an unknown duration, Adam Cat warned his fellow hero. He's also probably a genius of some kind from the bomb, but we don't know his specialty yet. A genius. Ryan blinked behind his mask. Wait, you think I'm a psycho with 2 powers? Adam Kitten snorted. Dude, you hold an entire city hostage with a nuclear device and a band of mutants. Either you're a psycho, or you're just psycho. Your reputation for mental instability makes a lot more sense now, Reload added. Frank took a step, ignoring the laser rifles pointed at him. Mr. President, do you want me to clear the area? They are going to do that on their own, or I'm pressing the button. Saren froze, as the weapon suddenly vanished from her hand. Huh? I've got it. Wardrobe rejoiced, having quickly changed her costume. Her clothes had transformed into that of a French gentleman with a monocle, a long cloak, and a top hat from which she had drawn the A-bomb. Arsène Lupin. Ryan immediately protested, someone is getting choked for a TH. Reload immediately leaped at the courier with his laser blade raised. However, Frank swiftly grabbed his leg in midair with one hand, and splattered him on the ground like a club. The poor violet genome immediately regenerated, and cut off his own leg before Frank could kill him again. Minions, dispose of these annoyances, without touching the truck. Ryan ordered, as the private security opened fire. The courier froze time to sidestep the barrage, while Livia and Saren took refuge behind Frank. The lasers failed to pierce the doll's reinforced metal body, though they burnt off parts of the artificial skin. but leave me the young kitty. I don't have a cat theme. Felix snarled, attempting to touch Ryan with his naked hand. The president gracefully sidestepped to dodge the blow, and then a second. Adam Cat's hands furiously tried to reach for the courier's chest, but Ryan had time and experience on his side. The doll and Saren had engaged the private security in a firefight, answering the lasers with rockets and shockwaves. The same mook that threatened Ryan's ultimate weapon hit Saren's shoulder, forcing her to cover the spot with a hand to avoid leaking out gas. Meanwhile, Olivia positioned herself behind Frank as he attempted to catch reload, using the Iron Giant as a shield against the private security's lasers. She seemed to be looking for someone she couldn't see. Wardrobe backed off, wisely trying to keep the bomb away from the battle, and Wyvern above smashed Mosquito against the warehouse's roof. "Oh, well, for a second, I thought I might need to use my hands," Ryan taunted Felix. "I guess my legs will be enough. I'll show you hands." Adam Kitten all but leaped at his foe, but the courier simply dodged and tripped him. The young hero crashed headfirst into the ground, much to his fury and humiliation. "It is useless to resist," Ryan said, as he loomed threateningly over his former sidekick. Though he had no intention of harming his friend, someone else thought otherwise. All windows in the area, including the light trucks, exploded at once. Glass shards flew at Ryan, and he felt a slight shiver down his spine. Ryan stood with his hat against his chest. The firefight briefly died out, as everyone tried to gather their thoughts. Olivia had activated her power, and skipped time forward. The Augusty princess stood near the truck, with a visible and bloodied shroud lying on the ground. The vehicle's container looked slightly damaged too. Olivia had punched the invisible vigilante with Fisty, causing him to hit the container and lose focus. As for the others, the doll patched Saren's wound, both of them hiding behind Frank. The Colossus had finally caught reload, and seemed ready to crush his back against his knee. Adam Kitten was struggling to get Jean Henry off his face, the cat clawing angrily at his cheeks. Ryan had probably thrown his pet at the hero in the skip time, but he couldn't tell for sure. Damn it, was that how it felt for others to fight Quicksave? That empty feeling of missing all the real action? No wonder the courier's foes hated him. Quicksave. Ryan raised his eyes, and witnessed Wyvern flying over his head. Dragon Mom had regained her human form, while Mosquito was slowly deflating back to his original size, embedded in the warehouse's front wall. "Surrender," Wyvern warned, her face straining with fury. "I won't hesitate to use lethal force." "You know what's better than Wanna-Bomb, Dragon Mom?" Ryan plunged his hand into his bowler hat, and quickly brought out a tiny metal sphere before Wyvern could descend upon him. Another bomb. Wyvern froze in midair, even as all private security members within earshot aimed at Ryan. "Wardrobe, steal the bee. If you want me to juggle." Ryan performed an illusion trick to swiftly bring a third bomb out of his jacket, making it look as if he had duplicated the sphere. "I've got a third." Thank Mekran for his matter replicator. It made it incredibly easy to manufacture nuclear devices. Almost too easy. And as Ryan had guessed, while Wardrobe immediately changed back her costume to Arsène Lupin's, she didn't attempt to steal both bombs from under his nose. Her power had limits. Still, one private security agent attempted to shoot the courier's arm to make him drop one of his nuclear devices. Ryan simply froze time, and reappeared a few feet away. "Nah, he said, his fingers brushing his weapon's buttons. "You try anything, I stop time, and we play Dr. Strangelove." Wyvern frowned, though she didn't make a move. "You won't dare. I literally let my cat do it on live television." Ryan pointed out, his thumbs brushing against the buttons. "Wanna bet?" For a tense and agonizing minute, nobody dared to move. Well, with the exception of Jean Henry, who finished clawing Adam Cat's face to run back to his master. All eyes looked at Ryan, fearing he would follow through with his threat. Wyvern's jaw clenched so hard the courier thought she might destroy her own teeth, and moved her hand to her ear. The geniuses in Dynamis HQ probably confirmed the bombs as genuine through an earplug, and Dragon Mom didn't dare to call out Ryan's bluff. "As I thought," Ryan said, smugly rubbing his victory into his foe's face. You see right here? That's the difference between us. One gets to be the goddamn USA, the other gets to be Afghanistan. Mr. President, didn't we sign treaties on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons? Frank asked, still holding a helpless reload within his hands. The violet genome attempted to stab the Iron Giant with his laser blade, but inflicted minor to no damage. Yes, but nobody respects them, Ryan replied, before glancing at his men. Ladies and gentlemen, pack your things, we're going home. Frank, get Mosquito. Frank immediately tossed reload over his shoulder, his strength sending the poor violet genome flying above the warehouse, and then helped the wounded Mosquito hop back on the ground. Mosquito complained as Frank helped carry him, blood gushing from his wounds. The bugman had regained his original size. Damn, she hits hard. Pain hurts so much. You're not going to get away with this, Wyvern said, simmering with anger. While Wardrobe had turned into a nurse to help the wounded, Adam Cat glared at the meta-gang, claw marks all over his face. The disguised Livia did her best to avoid looking at him, perhaps out of shame. Au contraire, I think I will get away with it and the money, Ryan said, as he opened the truck's door for Livia. The Augusty princess grabbed a Jean Henry and stepped inside the vehicle, imitated by Saren. Though hopefully, your boss won't get away with stuffing a body nature into an overpriced product. You think I believe any of this? Dragon Mom tried to sound confident. Ryan could sense the doubt creeping in her voice. That I can believe any of this? Darling, Ryan asked T, as she helped the wounded Mosquito and Frank climb into the truck's container. Give our dragon friend the proof. The blood. T opened a hidden compartment inside her arm, much to everyone's shock, and then tossed a small syringe at Wyvern. Over here. The superhero caught the container with one hand, frowning upon seeing a small quantity of blood inside. What is this? A few drops of the underdiver's blood. Though Dynamis already took samples and a DNA scan, Ryan doubted the company shared them with its shining hero. Wyvern wouldn't have signed with the megacorporation if she knew about its dirty secret. Apply it to any knockoff elixir, and you'll see the truth for yourself. I would suggest asking for Devilry's help though. If that stuff touches you, you're dead. Wyvern said nothing, even as Ryan prepared to climb into the truck last. The courier sent one last glance at the wounded Shroud on his way. I'm surprised you decided to fight us, he told the glass manipulator. I mean, you went so far to hunt down all of Bloodstream's clones. I thought you would go after Dynamis first. We failed. The courier frowned behind his mask. We didn't. Stop it. Shroud rasped, struggling for breath. Livia's blow probably damaged a lung. We just delayed. Delayed what? Bloodstream's return? Ryan asked with a frown, but the glass manipulator was in no shape to answer. The courier briefly wondered if they should bring the vigilante back to the bunker for medical attention, but it would only encourage Leo to attack them immediately. Dynamis would take care of him, if only because he tried to help them. A few seconds later, Ryan sat inside the truck as the doll drove it away, glancing through the broken windows. Nobody dared to stop them as they left Star Studios. So? Ryan asked his troop. Who's up for French? Livia let out a breath of relief, letting go of her stress. That was amazing, she said, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. I couldn't tell how the situation would turn out at any point. Is it always like this with you? Unfortunately, Saren groaned, covering the bandaged gash in her hazmat suit. Sometimes, there's fire, T added. We should do it more often. Livia rested her head against the seat, a Jean Henry sleeping on her lap. Ryan could understand her reaction. Much like him, she had forgotten how much she liked surprises. Amazing. When they reached the security checkpoint to enter Rust Town, the doll abruptly stopped the vehicle and let out a scream of horror. What's happening? Ryan instantly tensed and looked out the window, only to face a vision of horror. The private security checkpoint had turned dead silent. Literally. 24 Dynamis guards had been hung over an open archway leading into Rust Town, the ropes made of their own intestines. The number 885 had been written with blood on the floor beneath them in a macabre display. Holy! Livia put her hands on her helmet upon seeing this ghastly spectacle, reflexively trying to cover her mouth in horror. Jean-Henri, meanwhile, glanced at the bodies with lazy disdain. How could I not see? You couldn't see it, Ryan said, as he fearfully realized who had perpetrated this terrible deed. It? The reason why this run is already doomed, the courier replied, pointing his finger at the letters written on each corpse's chest. Together, they formed a single, ominous sentence. Happy birthday. Ryan looked into the rear-view mirror, and watched two pointed ears slowly rise behind him. Chapter 83. It had been 2 loops since Ryan last met Vulcan in the flesh. The sight of her mech descending from above filled him with nostalgia and longing. Ryan stood in front of the bunker's entrance, as Vulcan landed her vehicle atop a pile of trash. She climbed out of her metal suit, stood atop it like a pint-sized conqueror, and smirked. I love what you've done with the place, she told Ryan, after giving a cursory glance at the junkyard. Mekran's mech guarded the entrance while surrounded by burning helicopters, all of them bearing Dynamis logo. And yet, Ryan didn't pay much attention to them. He only had eyes for this fierce woman, who once saved him from Hanny Fat Lecter at this very spot. His heart had beat for her then, and it still did so today. What's wrong? Vulcan asked, amused. Have you fallen for me at first sight? Even if I disappear? She had said, all but pleading. Promise you won't forget me. It hurt just like the first day. Something like that, the courier lied, before making a mock reverence to hide his saddened gaze. Welcome to my humble abode, Miss Sharif. You didn't have any problem bypassing the blockade? I designed Dynamis anti-aerial weapons. Vulcan shrugged, as she climbed down from her mech to join him. They are far too slow for me. So are your defenses, for that matter. Try me. Vulcan's head snapped at Mekran's Scorpion mech, as a cheerful voice came out of it. Fastest toaster in the West. Vulcan studied the mech with renewed interest. I thought Mekran made sure his slave eyes couldn't talk back? We uploaded a new personality matrix worthy of this mighty machine, Ryan explained, tapping one of the mech's legs. One perfect for the job. I'm a toaster, I burn stuff, the mech replied. I'm pretty one-dimensional in what I want. It was the best kind of minion. The one that loved its dirty work. With the land dealing with any intruders on the ground with quakes, and Toasty bombarding any flyer, the private security's haphazardous attempts at raiding Rust Town had failed miserably. Eventually, they simply decided to besiege the district. A ring of tanks and soldiers prevented anyone from moving in or out, and warships blockaded the harbor. In theory, nothing short of a teleporter would allow the metagang to escape. A pity Dynamis didn't know about the bunker's underwater access. Ryan had carefully edited it out of the plans he sent to Nora, in case she connected the dots. Dynamis would devote all its resources to besieging Rust Town, leaving their HQ vulnerable to a sneak attack. The fear of Ryan's bombs would keep the megacorporation from attempting anything drastic, but only for a short while. Eventually, they would figure out a way to neutralize his weaponry, but by then it would be too late. Still, I'm surprised you showed up, Ryan admitted, as he invited Vulcan inside the bunker. Associating with us won't be good for your reputation. A deal is a deal, the genius replied with a smirk. And a man humiliating that bitch wyvern in front of the entire city is a man after my own heart. If I don't make it, go to Laura. Because she's so fucking perfect. And it took New Rome's destruction for them to bury the hatchet. Perhaps I can make the deal even sweeter? Ryan raised his hat, and drew an A-bomb from it. Vulcan raised an eyebrow at the courier, but accepted the gift gracefully. The happy face she made whenever he offered her this bomb delighted Ryan. Are you trying to bribe me? Yes, the president replied, knowing she would love it. Is it working? I dunno, she answered with a laugh, playing with the beautiful metal ball. Mine are bigger than yours. You haven't seen my full arsenal, Ryan replied, unable to resist. I polish it every day. Vulcan smirked coyly. I only believe what I see. Damn it. Ryan could tell that if he put on the charm, Vulcan would fall for him again. They shared a natural, playful chemistry, the same love of big bombs and innuendos. Holding her in his arms and kissing her would feel like going home to his wife, after a long trip. It would feel just right. Don't replace me with another Jasmine. And yet, Ryan had made a promise to Jasmine, his Jasmine, and would abide by her wish. Even if no one would hold the career responsible if he broke his promise. He respected his old girlfriend enough not to betray her last request. If only he had completed the brain transfer machine before that cursed loop. Make sure this disaster never happens again, okay? Kill that fetus. At least he followed through with that promise. Ryan led his ex-girlfriend down into the corridors overseeing the bunker's hangars. Vulcan stopped at the repaired glass windows, observing the submarine and the tech gathered here. A full Mecrum base, right below our feet, she whistled, as Ryan gave her a tour of the facility. You really hit the jackpot. We even have a matter replicator. Ryan pitched her the benefits of her new workplace. You just put in the design and the necessary material, and bam. Instant weapon. And what weapon do you want from me exactly? She asked, putting a hand on her waist. Because I doubt you contacted me to build a teddy bear. You underestimate their power. They lure you into a false sense of security, and then they hug you into submission. Is that your plan to take over the city? Trade the nuclear bombs for teddy bears. Ryan had to keep her away while she worked, or he wouldn't resist. The more Vulcan spoke, the more her wit pulled him in. Well, if you want to know, we figured out how Mecron enhanced his henchman's powers. Alchemo had finally overcome most of the mainframe's remaining firewalls, giving the group access to Mecron's key files. This immediately caught Vulcan's full interest. Go on, she asked. I'll share the data, but long story short, Mecron found ways to streamline the flux energy a genome radiates with biomechanical implants. The underlying theory is the same as with your power armors. Much like Dynamis, Mecron's knockoffs were synthetic lifeforms mimicking the properties of genuine elixirs. Though they weren't sentient unlike Darkling or genuine elixirs, they could modify genes based on data gathered from true genomes. However, the mad genius had gone a step farther than the Manadas. Though they lacked an innate connection to the color dimensions, his knockoffs could create microscopic portals to them with sufficient mechanical support. By channeling the flux energy it generated and using data gathered from an existing genome, Mecron's machines could crudely imitate the template's power. The telekinetic mech Ryan fought in the bunker was only one example. By the end of his life, Mecron had started experimenting with biomechanical ORBs capable of great destruction. His artificial elixirs needed a lot more technical support to function than the originals. But they worked. Ryan shuddered at what Mecron could have achieved, had the madman lived a few more years. If he had perfected his elixirs and outfitted his robots with superpowers, he would have become unstoppable. Still, these knockoffs were pale imitations of true elixirs, and far less efficient. So Mecron's eyes had gone further, which led to Darkling. You want me to create a suit of power armor, Vulcan guessed, grinning with excitement. Something that can supercharge your power. Yes, with a cashmere poncho over it. By combining data from both sources and the bunker's advanced technology, Ryan knew his favorite Spitfire could create a magnum opus. The design would also incorporate lens signal tech, hopefully allowing the courier to send multiple people back in time. However, he would need Len's help for it, and his best friend still refused to leave her room. Up for it? Ryan asked, once they reached the recreation area. Siren, Acid Rain, Mosquito, and a few others had gathered in front of a TV post put on the bar counter, watching the news. Like the day I was born. Do or don't. There is no try. Those had been Jasmine's last words, and they summed her up perfectly. She always gave it her all. Hey, boss. Siren called him. They are going to talk about us. Finally. Ryan rejoiced, as he and Vulcan approached the TV screen. Obviously, Hector Manada denied everything and tried a silent campaign, and forcing a newsbane to cover up Ryan's revelations. But the damage had been done, and people talked. It seemed that Dynamis had finally decided to address the elephant in the room through a press conference. Illinois Migliori's full lineup had gathered at the Optimus Tower's entrance, accompanied by Enrique Blackthorne, Manada and PR specialists. Of course, Wardrobe was dressed chic, a pillar of culture among fashion disasters. Felix's claw marks had healed, but he didn't bother to hide his frustration. As for Wyvern, her face was utterly blank and lifeless. Ryan glanced at the news ticker, each information worse than the last. Unexplained explosions continue, children still missing after daycare attack. The private security refused to come, the plush eyes kept causing more incidents across town. Tensions were at an all-time high, Dynamis was stretched thin, and people demanded answers. Vulcan snickered, as Blackthorne invited Wyvern to take place on a stage and face an army of journalists. More dog than dragon. She isn't corrupt, Ryan said, just naive. Vulcan frowned at him in response. Who told you that crap? Jasmine. Which only highlighted how much she had changed as a person by the end. Jasmine had been willing to give up her grudge, but Vulcan wouldn't move on by herself. Not without help. Ryan listened silently as Wyvern addressed the crowd in all of New Rome. She of course condemned the Metagang's terrorist threat, promised retribution she couldn't deliver, said everything was under control, blah blah blah. Many of you have wondered if the images shown on this so-called Mr. President's video were genuine, Wyvern said, her expression stoic and professional. Or if his accusations about the dangers of knockoff elixirs were founded. The courier braced himself for impact. They are. The audience exploded into gasps. Shock spread across the Illinois Migliori team, and the PR assistants looked at Wyvern as if she had lost her mind. Clearly, her outburst was entirely unscripted. Even Vulcan opened her mouth in surprise, astonished that her former ally would dare defy her employers. Enrique Manada remained as still as a statue, and made no move to interrupt the superhero's revelations. Perhaps he had wanted to say such things for a long time, but never had the courage to. Felix's reaction wasn't so restrained though. The young kitten simply walked away from the press conference, and from Dynamis. I have checked, Wyvern continued, her face twisting in anger and bitterness. I cannot stay silent about this, nor remain with an organization capable of something so terrible. As such, I am permanently stepping down from my position as Illinois Migliori's leader, though I will continue to cooperate with them against the Met. The declaration was met with an explosion of questions from the reporters, and a wide grin from Vulcan. More modest, Ryan simply joined his hands. All according to Kaikaku. After Alchimo fully took over the bunker, he had set the robots to maintenance duties and tasked them to repair the place. The Genome Research Lab where Ryan had fought Mechron's spider mech was no different. Though the machines hadn't yet filled the ceiling hole created by Darkling, they cleaned up the floor and repaired broken vats. When he entered the room, Ryan found Livia sitting on the same kind of robotic chair which Adam used to restrain him. The Auguste princess had removed her helmet, and grinded her teeth together as the mechanical arm gathered a few drops of blood from her left arm. Braindead had connected to a large computer system linked to the chair, observing the data on a screen. You're all right, princess? Ryan asked Livia, worried for her well-being. He could tell from experience that Alchimo had no problem roughing up his patients. I hope I will not regret it, Livia said, covering her naked arm with her sleeve once the machine was done. This information could cause great harm in the wrong hands. Ryan could see her point. Augustus had become the warlord of Italy by virtue of having two powerful abilities with no side effects. A cure for the psycho syndrome would potentially allow anyone to do the same, causing an arms race. Even you must be curious about your special status, the courier pointed out. A bit, she admitted with a smile. My father said we had been chosen by fate, but I've always been skeptical. Well, Alchimo said, as results appeared on the screen. How interesting. Done blood-sucking young women? Ryan asked, as he offered Livia his arm. The precog responded with a charmed smile, as she accepted his help with aristocratic grace. She didn't let it go even once she had risen up from her seat. "People will talk." "As if I cared what the meat said. Now stop barking, and look. We will make history today." The courier and Livia obliged, looking at the screen. A woman's bioscan appeared, representing the skeleton and major organs. Spots of orange and violet colors flared all over the body, like oil and water pushing against one another. "This shows Helen's results?" Ryan asked, acid rain having served as the first test subject. "Indeed," Alchimo confirmed. "Each of her elixirs rewrote around 50% of her DNA, and they conflict. Sometimes the orange elixir affects 51% of her body, sometimes 49%. The exact percentages vary each day, creating mutations, tumors, and other health problems." The genius uploaded a second picture, which Ryan assumed represented Livia's biosigns. The Auguste princess was almost entirely blue in color, with a slight spot of violet near the ears and brain. Unlike the previous scan, the colored areas didn't move at all. "Now, our friend here is very different," the genius continued his explanation. "Most of her genetic code has been affected by the blue elixir, to the point she might appear as a monocolored genome at first glance." "I took the blue elixir first," Livia said. Alchimo nodded, before pointing a syringe finger at the purple spot. "However, around 2.5% of her DNA has been rewritten by the second, violet elixir. Both substances are remarkably stable, and do not override each other's information. So Tyranno's theory was correct, at least partly. Livia's powers coexisted without conflicting or fusing. The million-dollar question being why this happened, Ryan said. "And why only 2.5%? Don't you see the obvious?" Alchimo asked with smug confidence, happy to see the solution which had evaded the courier for centuries. "No, but I'm sure you will enlighten me, O great keeper of knowledge." Braindead didn't even answer the taunt, too high on his superior position as a teacher. The original elixirs were meant to bond with humans. With Homo sapiens. So far, all attempts to have elixirs bond to animals have failed. Even with chimpanzees, who share almost 99% of our genome. Even Mecron only succeeded by creating a workaround, Ryan muttered. Using technology to mimic a true genome's powers. But what if? What if they had been on the right track? Braindead mused. Just not close enough? Ryan thought furiously about what he meant for a second, before the solution became obvious to him. The Neanderthals? Neanderthals? Livia asked in confusion. The current Homo sapiens species interbred with Neanderthals before their extinction, with the Eurasian population inheriting around 2% of their genes from them, Ryan explained. Neanderthals were our closest relatives. Livia's eyes widened in genuine surprise. Enough to confuse the elixirs. I believe so, Alchimo nodded. My theory is that your elixirs mistakenly believed that they bonded to two different individuals, instead of one. This caused them to share your body, for a lack of better term. The Auguste princess frowned in skepticism, immediately seeing the problem. But if your theory is correct, then people with two powers should be far more common. As you said, this affects the entire Eurasian population. Millions of people. You probably need a very specific ratio or combination of Neanderthal genes to fool the elixirs, Alchimo defended his theory, though he sounded less certain and couldn't convince Livia. Or it could be caused by a syndrome like chimerism, where one organism has cells from more than one genotype. Only a few hundred cases were ever recorded. If it is so rare, why do my father and I share it? Is it inheritable? Livia asked, causing the genius to fall silent as he tried to find an answer. Probably not, from your reaction. Ryan considered the matter, trying to find a logical explanation and assemble all pieces of the puzzle. His thoughts turned to Darkling, and his discussions with that sentient elixir. They were taught, Ryan muttered. I'm sorry. Livia asked. Someone told me elixirs were taught to bond with humans, probably by the alchemist. If Darkling's tale was true, then it had been pulled from its home dimension by Mecron's AI, but refused to behave afterward. which implied the bonding process isn't natural for them. His first lady looked more confused by the second. I'm sorry, do you mean elixirs are intelligent? Yes, but not like us. Even Darkling, who understood humans enough to talk to them, found their reality maddening. They are alien life forms that don't even use DNA. Foreigners who have been given a crash course on our language. They know the words, but not the music. So. Livia frowned. What you mean to say, is that elixirs have only a superficial understanding of us? About how we are made? I can't prove it, but it's a plausible explanation, Ryan said. He would need to confirm it with Darkling. According to his pet Shoggoth, elixirs were meant to connect lower life forms to the ultimate ones, eventually allowing them to ascend. But as the courier's own experience showed, the communication wasn't perfect. The difference in mindset was too large. Due to something in your genetic code, whether Neanderthal DNA, a unique quirk, or something else, your elixirs believed they bonded to two different people sharing a body. But it's a fragile equilibrium, she guessed. If I take one more, the original elixirs realize their mistake and start conflicting. And Mongrel's power grants him a limited control over how elixirs behave, Ryan added, glancing at Alchemo. If we can reproduce his ability and combine it with gene therapy, we could create a serum that would force the original two elixirs to realign, and mimic the conditions that led to our test subject's unique equilibrium, Alchemo replied with a nod. Livia frowned at the test subject part, but didn't comment. Or alternatively, remove the extra elixir and turn the target into a normal, monocolor genome. But to create something this complex, Livia reread her bioscience, before turning at Alchemo. How long would it take you to create such a cure? Braindead let out what could pass for a sigh. It may take months for Mecron's AI to mimic Mongrel's power, let alone design a cure from it. These machines are powerful, but the subject is eminently complex. My own genius specialty does not overlap with this case study either. We'll need Dr. Tyranno, Ryan muttered to himself. As the only genius specialized in gene therapy, he could probably design a cure for a psychose if presented with the necessary data and resources. Livia bristled, while Alchema snickered in disdain. Dynamis dinosaur maker? The genius asked. Do you think he will help? Not unless I convince him that my evil plan involves turning everyone into dinosaurs. Just kidnap him then. You already escalated to terrorism, what's one more crime? He rarely leaves Dynamis HQ, and never without a heavy escort, Livia said. And if anything happens to him, Dynamis goes all in. He's the cornerstone of their entire knockoff operation, so they will try to get him back at all costs. And if he dies? Ryan asked with a frown. Why didn't your father try to have him assassinated? Because then Fallout gets involved, Livia replied ominously. The way she said it, she had foreseen it. I think you can imagine how it will end. Yes, he could. Would he react the same if he lost the other pillar of knockoff production? Ryan intended to attack Lab 66 as soon as Vulcan finished her armor, and after opening Darkling's portal home. He couldn't afford to wait too long for someone like Fallout or Hargraves to force a way inside the bunker. Would Dr. Tyranno help make a cure at all? Livia asked. He turned a psycho into a drink. This does not speak well of his moral fiber. Ryan still remembered how that Scully had tried to get the panda open to see how his ability worked. Without anesthesia. He cares only about his research, and dinosaurs, the courier said. Not for lab safety. Unfortunately, Ryan doubted he could convince Dr. Tyranno to cooperate during this loop. He needed more information on the man. Yet, they would need Mongrel, Livia, the bunker, and additional data to create the cure. The courier only obtained access to these resources due to very specific circumstances impossible to replicate in the next. Livia, darling, do you have anything planned for tonight? She slowly nodded, albeit reluctantly. My father asked for a meeting, probably about how to deal with you. I will have to return to him soon. Ryan could read between the lines. They needed to have a talk with Len, and prepare for the future. They needed to discuss how to end this doomed loop, and how to proceed afterward. The Augusty princess turned towards the room's door. "You can come in," she said. "This does not have to end in violence." The metal door opened, and someone stopped listening through it. "Better luck next time, eh?" Saren pointed her gauntlet at Ryan, her fingers vibrating with power. "Not gonna work for me." Chapter 84. None dared to move, as Saren pointed her gauntlets at the group. Energy built up within her hands, ready to unleash mighty shockwaves. Truth be told, Ryan didn't fear his rebellious vice president. He could easily stop time and defeat her. However, they were in an enclosed space with knockoffs kept in vets nearby. If she unleashed a shockwave and splattered the courier with the substance, even by accident. "So, it's treason then?" Ryan joked. "You know you will get impeached for this defiance, right? You're the traitor." Saren threatened him with her gauntlet. "You promised me to find a cure. I've believed you, killed for you, and now you can't follow through with it. You're going to turn back." "Saren, darling, there are others in the row. I won't let you time travel again," Saren snarled, uncaring. "Not until you cure me first. Even if it takes you months, I won't let you go back until it's done." Ryan tensed, and glanced at the other people in the room. Livia remained unperturbed, probably using her power on Saren to find a way out. And Alcimo. He wasn't surprised. "You knew," Ryan said. "You bastard, you listened at the door when I told you not to." Every time the courier found the strength to trust the brain in a jar, he found a new and interesting way to betray his confidence. "I did no such thing," Alcimo replied, though he sounded apologetic. "But when you wanted me to upload that girl's memory map, you checked her memories," Ryan realized, infuriated. The genius could harvest and read memories from others. Like Sishak. "I had to make sure there was no sabotage left," Alcimo defended himself. "I am not the wrong party here, meatbag. Why didn't you tell us, you selfish brat? After everything my daughter and I did for you." "Because I told you once," Ryan snarled, raising a finger at Alcimo. "And you betrayed my trust. You went mad and tried to extract my brain, to prevent me from reloading." The genius stumbled back as if he had been slapped. "You had to finish me off mid-procedure, to spare me from decades of imprisonment," Ryan continued. "You couldn't live with the knowledge that you would forget everything. Because you're killing us, asshole." Saren snarled. "You're playing with our lives." "That is not how it works, Saren," Livia spoke up, completely calm. "This is your psychosis talking, not you. I understand you must feel desperate. You can't understand me, jackass. You can't even understand what it is to be me." Saren clenched her fists. 6 months. The psycho let out these words like bullets, like a heavy secret she finally found the courage to get off her chest. The first time I gained my powers, the wind dispersed me," she admitted. I didn't know how my power worked very well, so it took me months to pull myself together. Months to find a container I didn't rust on contact. So no, you don't understand what it is to be me. To feel nothing, to see people have sex and eat food and sleep and just watch." By now she was screaming. "You can't understand being separated from the world outside by this cloth prison. You can't understand being afraid of any blade around you, in case one breaches the one thing keeping you in one piece. I've spent years like this. And you spent those years hanging out with Adam and letting him sow misery wherever he went," Ryan replied, his tone icy. "I've watched you stand by his side after he burned all of New Rome to cinders. Did you stand by his side when he force-fed Helen an elixir? Would you have let him turn me into a psycho, if I couldn't turn back time?" To her credit, Hazmat Girl faltered a little at his words, but not enough to take responsibility. "I had no choice. Nobody else would help, and when I was in, he wouldn't let me go." Ryan didn't buy that excuse. "You always have a choice, even if some will cost you more than others." He knew that from experience. "You just weren't brave enough to take a stand. And unlike Frank, Mongrel, or Acid Rain, you can't claim insanity. You're entirely lucid." The courier felt some sympathy for her situation, and he owed her one for helping him so far, but it didn't even begin to make up for her actions. He would cure her, but he wouldn't forget. "Siren, we are working on a solution," Livia promised, her tone soft and diplomatic. "We have gone further than what Adam the ogre ever promised you. But we need more time." "It's always more time," she said, skeptical. "Adam said that too. Next time's the charm." "I promised that I would cure you, and I will," Ryan swore. "But you have seen the corpses outside, the people Goal killed before I could stop him. This timeline is spiraling towards greater destruction." "But we're alive," Siren protested. "Helen, Mongrel, Frank. You can cure us, if you keep going. But you're going to run. You gave us all hope, and you are to throw us all away. Who gives you the right to let us all die so you can get a new chance, huh? Who gave it to you?" Ryan argued. "I have some compassion for your airheadedness, but don't push me. I didn't ask for this power, but I made the best of it. I can achieve an outcome where everyone is happy, you included. Not me. Another me. If you follow through with your promise and don't forget us. You hold all the freaking cards. If that's what you fear, we could copy your memories," Livia suggested, hopeful. "I can store as many brain maps as needed." "I have air for a head," Siren pointed out. "What brain can't you copy? If you die now, I die too." "Then why are you threatening me?" Ryan pointed out. "What do you think it will achieve?" The psycho froze in place. "You haven't thought that far," Livia said. "Because you are not thinking straight, Siren. Lower your gauntlets, and let us talk it out." The psycho didn't listen. "I'm sick of words," she said, pointing both her gauntlets at Ryan. "You're all talk and no action, like Adam. Cure me now, or I'll kill you." "I will come back," the courier replied. The words sounded bitter in his mouth. "But you won't bring anyone else back. No more transfers. Your amphibian girlfriend, she's not going back either. If I die, she dies too." Ryan tensed up, but Livia reacted quicker. "All you will do is ruin your chances of ever being cured," she said. "Because you won't stop him, and he will remember. Has he abused your trust so far?" "Trust? That's what I should do, trust?" Siren trembled. "Why?" Ryan broke his silence. "Because that's all you have left." The psycho opened fire. A blast of compressed air hit the wall behind Ryan, passing within an inch of his head and forcing a hole into the thick steel. He didn't flinch, nor did he move. "Fuck." Siren collapsed to her knees, hitting the ground twice with her fists. She had raised her white flag. I just don't want to die. I want to live." "Siren, you will live," Ryan said, his tone softening a little. "I swear, by the end of it, you will have a happy ending." "My name is not Siren, you jerk," she hissed, her voice full of bitterness. "Don't you get it? I don't want to be Siren. I don't want to be that. I can't stand it, and I want my life back." Ryan hesitated for a moment, before kneeling next to her and putting a hand on her shoulder. He felt nothing inside the hazmat suit, except compressed air. "I swear I will cure you all," he said. "But you're not the only person on my Christmas list. Your turn will come, even if I have to repeat the same month for years, but you shall wait for it." She didn't push him away, which he took for a good sign. Alcimo, who had watched things unfold without a word, finally found his tongue again. Or vocal device, in his case. "Meatbag, is that why you left us without a word?" he asked. "Because of what I did." Ryan shrugged. "I couldn't stand the sight of you anymore after that. And once this loop is done, I hope I won't see you again. I'll consider your favor settled, and you won't hear from me." The genius looked down at the cold hard floor, and then up. "No, Ryan. I'm sorry." "No," Alcimo repeated, ignoring the courier's glare. "That was another me having a moment of weakness. I am not the person he was. We were one once, but we developed differently." "You are who you are on your worst day," Ryan replied. "It revealed what you are, deep inside." "I am who I am on my best days too, meatbag. And every day of my life. The cyborg shook his head. I am a cynical old man who had to make a robot daughter, because he drove everyone else away. There, I said it. I was angry when you left, and it hurt the doll. But it made me question myself. Made me try to do better. Better for you, the courier accused him. No, the genius replied calmly. Not just for me. For the doll too. She wanted to help others, so I did. I can help you, and that gaseous girl. Maybe she doesn't have a brain, but she can form memories. I can figure it out, make a copy of her mind. Do the same for me, and others. I don't trust you, Ryan replied. And the more people who know about my power, the greater the danger. Yet you expect us to trust you unconditionally. Alchema snarled back. Ryan, Olivia said, putting a hand on the courier's shoulder. You didn't trust me either once. Trust is earned, Ryan countered. Then let me copy the doll's memories and take them with you, Alchema said. You may not like me, meatbag, but she loved you. Much to my annoyance. If we never meet again, my daughter will never find closure. You'll just leave a gaping hole. Whether you like it or not, you have people who care for and rely on you, Ryan, Olivia said, glancing at a despairing Saren. You don't have to leave them all behind. I can understand the risks, but is it worth driving into the sunset without looking back, again and again? Right in the gut. Ryan looked at Saren, and his mind wandered back in time. Back when he drove away from Monaco after freeing its prisoners. How he left behind people with whom he had shared a lifetime, never to take it back. He remembered Spain, France, Italy, all the places he visited, all the communities he helped but never stayed with. The courier could do the same with Rome, achieving his perfect run with Len and leaving the place afterward. No one would know but Olivia. He could begin again, as he had always done. He had fun hanging out with Felix, the panda, Wardrobe, Vulcan, and many others, but his eternal life would go on without them. But now Ryan could bring others with him. He could make bonds transcending time. Make connections that wouldn't break, that could go wrong, that he couldn't take back. And it terrified him. However, Ryan remembered his time with Jasmine, and how he had made a decision to trust and tell her everything. He had taken a gamble then, because he realized something important. He couldn't do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. If Ryan wanted a change in his life, it had to begin with him. Even if it meant taking a risk. The courier sighed. I won't take everyone. Too many people know already. He didn't want a repeat of his capture by Adam and Sishak. I will record the memories of the people you've met first, Olivia reassured him. My father wants me back, but I have the feeling now is the best time to make backups of everyone. We are approaching a point of no return soon. Yes. Once Dynamis and the Carnival mobilized, things would become extraordinarily more difficult. But it would feel nice to have other people having his back. Alchemo took Saren with him, to try and figure out how to record her memories. Ryan didn't know if it was possible, even if he hoped for it. This situation, this entire loop, was a giant leap into the unknown. It could have gone better, the courier said, as he faced the door to Shorty's room along with Livia. Believe me, Ryan, it went far better than it could have. Though I couldn't predict your interactions with her, I've seen Saren opening fire on me and Alchemo. Someone would have died. Olivia joined her hands together. I do not understand why you didn't jump at the opportunity to carry more people with you. You can't fathom the number of people I left behind. What's one or two more? Ryan looked away. Why did you insist we bring them? Because you are a good man, Ryan. The courier glanced at the Mafia princess, and she smiled at him. A warm, lovely grin. Others with your power would not have gone as far as you did to make people's lives better, Olivia said, her smile turning sadder. And? I can tell it brings you great unhappiness. Every relationship you had was not a source of joy, but an open wound, a burden. Even now, you fear making connections you can't take back. You're not afraid of death, but you're afraid of other people. Ryan remembered his philosophical discussions with Simon, back when they were trapped in Monaco. Sartre said that hell is other people. He was wrong, I think. Hell is loneliness. Livia shook her head. I think only the two of us can understand that well. Ryan glanced at the door. Len is facing her own special kind of hell right now, he admitted. And I don't know how to bring her out of it. His precognitive friend remained silent for a few seconds, looking for the right words. When I was young, my father used to take my mother and me to Sicily, she said, her tone somber. He would drive through the hillsides and valleys on the island, and for hours we did nothing but watch the scenery. These were simple pleasures, but we were happy. Ryan listened in silence. Every time I see what my father has become. Livia marked a short pause. Or what he has always been, I remember these moments. I always wish we could go back to them. I think your friend feels the same. But there are some things you can't go back to, even with all the powers in the world, Ryan said. I checked. No, Livia admitted with a sigh. But you can try to make new, happier memories. With the right people. The courier looked at this young woman wise beyond her years, and at the sadness in her gaze. So can you, Livia? She didn't seem convinced. You have a second chance at happiness with people who love and trust you. In my case. You have people who love and trust you, Ryan reassured her. That's why you're even here. Didn't we have fun together? Her cheeks turned a little pinkish. Yes, we did. Then let's make new happy memories of our own, the courier said, smiling behind his mask. Thank you, Livia. For everything. She chuckled. You told my previous self that she wasn't alone, and I will repeat these words to you. You are not alone, Ryan. Not anymore. Neither was she. Ryan knocked on the door, and it opened by itself. He walked inside while Livia remained behind, her expression undecipherable. He found Len sitting on a bed, her knees pulled towards her chest, and her hands around her legs. Her water rifle remained within arm's reach, as if she might need it any time. Perhaps Shorty expected Bloodstream to barge into the room any time, as he did back in her childhood. The sight broke Ryan's heart. Len had never moved on. Shorty, he said while sitting at her side. She didn't move, even as he put an arm around her shoulder. It's almost time. I'm about to open the gate for Darkling to return home, and then. I don't know what I will do when we meet him, she admitted, her voice muffled by her knees. Me neither, Ryan admitted, his gaze distant. But you were right. It's the only way to get closure. Do you think there's a chance to cure him? Make him human again? I don't know. Tyranno might have modified him to make the knockoff elixirs. Maybe he is already dead, and they're harvesting the corpse. Len didn't answer a word at that, perhaps having already rehearsed the possibility in her mind. The slime in the experimental chamber hadn't said a word, nor shown any sign of sentence. Perhaps Dynamis didn't even keep Bloodstream in custody, but created something else with whatever DNA the psycho had left behind. They wouldn't know until they had broken into Lab 66, and Len couldn't do that while sitting on the bed all day. She grabbed her water rifle, her expression turning determined. Let's go, Len said. Tope continued. Thanks for listening.